everyone, my name's Katrina and today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I read in April, May and June. I have a lot of books to talk about since I'm cramming a wrap-up of 3 months into one, so I probably won't go into as much detail as I normally would in these types of videos, but if I have done any reviews of the book, like videos or on Goodreads or anywhere else that I've really talked about the book in a little more detail, I will leave those links in the description below so you can get a little more of my thoughts. So I guess I'll just jump right in and tell you what I thought about all of the books I read for the past few months, and I'm not going to go month by month, but instead I'll go by star rating from lowest to highest. I listened to the audiobooks for all of the Lara Jean books by Jenny Han. They are To All the Boys I've Loved Before, P.S. I Still Love You, and Always and Forever Lara Jean. So in To All the Boys I've Loved Before, we have Lara Jean, who when she has a crush, to kind of get over them, they write this boy a love letter. She doesn't send them to anyone, they're basically just for herself. It's a way to kind of just accept what has been, the crush is over, it's a bit of closure. Something happens and all of these letters are sent out to the boys. So it's about the aftermath of all of that. Books 1 and 2 I gave 3.5 stars and book 3 I gave 3 stars. These were just exactly kind of what I wanted from these books. They were really light, they were really fluffy, kind of cheesy, but also quite cute with the romance. My favorite thing about the books was probably the relationships that Lara Jean had with her family. I really enjoyed seeing all of that. The romances I did enjoy, but I also just was like flipping back and forth so much between the different options, because in books 1 and 2 we had love triangles and I was like going back and forth so much. Whilst I wasn't unhappy with the choices, I also like equally would have enjoyed the other ones, so I was very confused. Book 3 as well I thought was just like pure fluff. There wasn't too much in terms of the storyline and conflicts and things like that, but it was really sweet. And just overall I did think these were really fun. I also read Sheets by Brenna Thumler. This is a graphic novel and I did get a digital copy through NetGalley. This one I also rated 3.5 stars. So it follows 2 different characters. We have Marjorie, who is a young girl who's basically running her family business, which is a laundromat, and then we have Wendell, who is a ghost. And in this world, ghosts all wear sheets. So it's about these 2 characters' different lives, so to speak, even though Wendell isn't alive, and how their stories intertwine. It was really sweet. I didn't actually realize that this was middle grade going in, so at the start I thought that Marjorie was a little bit older, but she's actually quite young, and there were some elements of the plot as well that I was like, oh, this is a little bit cheesy, this is a little bit out there, but then realizing that it's middle grade, it kind of made a little more sense. The illustrations are so beautiful. I love the color palette. It's just a lot of pastels. I have a Goodreads review linked in the description. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, another 3.5 stars. This was the name of the book club pick for April. This one I did enjoy, but I don't think I was necessarily in the right mood or headspace to read it. It took me a really long time to read, and I think that, I mean, it's probably in part because it was quite heavy on the world building and things like that, but maybe again it just wasn't quite timing, so I did have to rush through the last part of this book in order to have it finished by my book club meeting. I did do a live show talking all about Assassin's Apprentice. The first part is spoiler free, the rest go into spoilers. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, and we follow Fitz, who is a young boy, and he is the illegitimate son of the Crown Prince. His father doesn't want anything to do with him, however, and so he's basically raised in the stables, and eventually he starts being trained as an assassin. I wish we'd gotten to see more of the assassin stuff. That part I was really looking forward to. I was really interested in learning more about it, but we get a little bit of the training, just not very much, so that was a little disappointing. But I am really interested to continue the series. The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valenti. This one was a really cute read. This is also a middle grade. It's about a girl who travels into fairyland and she's finding things in complete disorder. There is an evil Marquess who is reigning over the land, and the main character, September, is trying to help set things right. This was really cute, really quirky as well. I think I probably would have like loved reading this book when I was a little bit younger, but I am pretty interested in continuing with the series, so definitely enjoyable, but probably would have loved it more if I was younger. I also listened to the audiobook for The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey, again rated this one 3.5 stars. This is kind of a dystopian thriller. We follow young Melanie, who each morning waits in her cell to be strapped into a wheelchair at gunpoint and taken off to a classroom full of other students who are also strapped into wheelchairs. The synopsis everywhere is super vague, but I did go in knowing what this was about, but I feel like I don't want to ruin it for anyone else, so I'm going to leave the synopsis just there. And it was a really interesting story. story. It just wasn't like anything spectacular for me. I don't really have much else to say for it. It was kind of a good book, but nothing absolutely amazing. Next up, I have Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and in this world, society is divided into whether you have silver blood or whether you have red blood. So the silver-blooded people are the elite, they have powers, and the red-blooded people are poor, living in poverty, and they don't have any supernatural powers. We follow Mare Barrow, who is a red, but she finds herself in a situation where she reveals to herself and the world that she has a dangerous power of her own. I ended up being really pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars, and one of the comments that I'd seen a lot before jumping into this one was how it was just really similar to a lot of the other dystopian novels out there. It wasn't super unique or original, and I definitely understand where people are coming from with that. With my reading experience of this one, for me, it just felt really familiar and comforting in a way. It's been a while since I read a lot of dystopian, like around the Hunger Games and Divergent time. I was just like going through a bunch of dystopian novels and reading so many of them because they were just flooding the market. And since that period of my reading life, I haven't read too many since then, so it was kind of nice to go back to it, and I did really enjoy that fact. So it could be kind of predictable at times, but that wasn't a point of irritation for me or anything. I did also interview Victoria Aveyard and do a couple of videos with her as well, so I will link those videos in the description below. Next, I have Not Your Sidekick by C.B. Lee. This is a young adult superhero novel. It kind of reads more like middle grade though. We follow Jessica Tran, who is Chinese Vietnamese, and she is desperately wanting to become a superhero. Her parents are the 2 major heroes in town, and she kind of wants to follow the hero track, but she doesn't have any powers of her own. Over the summer, she takes an internship with this company, and it turns out that her boss is one of the supervillains, basically her parents' enemies. And she also gets to work with Abby, who is her crush. So Jessica Tran, she is bisexual. We have the cutest female romance. Oh my gosh. That was definitely my favorite thing about this book. Again, rated this one 4 stars. Oh my god, I was like squealing. It was so sweet. The romance is definitely at the forefront with this one. We do get some of the superhero stuff kind of taking over the plot towards the beginning and the end of the book, but for the most part, it is predominantly about the romance. This was one of my book club picks as well, so I have done a live show, link in the description as well. The beginning is spoiler free, then we do dive into spoiler stuff after that. I also read the last 3 volumes of Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. Again, a 4-star read. I really enjoyed reading this series. I thought this was a really satisfying conclusion. I did think it wrapped up a little too nicely, especially considering some of the things that our characters are put through throughout the series. The ending, although it was like climactic, it just felt a little easy, but it was still satisfying and sweet with the ending, so really enjoyed this manga series, would definitely recommend it. Lifelike by J. Christoph. This was one of the other book club picks, so I have done a live show, this time on Pierre's channel, link in the description as well. This one I also rated 4 stars, maybe like 4.25. It's like set in the future, post-collapse United States. There have been technological advances in that there are robots, cyborgs, and androids. Some of the androids look exactly like humans, and they are called lifelikes, but they have been outlawed. The main character Evie, she's out scavenging one day when she comes across a lifelike. In addition to the live show, I have also recently posted my Q&A with J. Christoph, so we talk a little bit more about his inspiration, some of the cool things to expect from the book, so I'll also leave that video in the description below because I think that was a fun Q&A. I did really enjoy this book. I thought the world was super cool. I love the characters most of all. Like Lemon Fresh is by far one of my favorite characters. Cricket as well was also a shining star. Oh my goodness, the banter that we get between all of the characters with these 2 in particular, oh, it was just fantastic. I really liked how it looked at humanity and what it means to be human. It also looks at, you know, playing God and creating lives essentially with the lifelikes. So many interesting references in here as well, and I'm so excited for book 2. You have no idea. Next up is Only Human by Sylvain Nouvelle. This is the 3rd and final book in the Themis Files. Book 1 follows young Rose Franklin, who stumbles into a ditch and finds herself sitting in the palm of a giant metallic hand. hand, and people are like, oh my gosh, what is this? Where did it come from? Are there more pieces? Who knows? So I'm not going to dive into the story of this one because obviously it's spoilers, but I did really enjoy this one. I've been listening to the audiobooks. This does have a very different feel to books 1 and 2. I feel like for the majority it was quite calm. The ending wasn't as like explosive as I was expecting as well. There's still a lot at stake, but it just wasn't as impactful as I was expecting it to be. That's why I gave this one 4 stars, whereas the other 2 books I gave 4.5 stars. But I really did enjoy some of the new things that we explore in this one. Those aspects were really cool and would definitely recommend the series. The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson, I gave this 4.5 stars, and I was just really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. This was just so much fun. In this world, we have a magic system called Arithmetics, and it basically involves drawing like chalk marks that can come to life, like different marks for defensive and offensive maneuvers, and you can like draw little creatures who attack other people's arithmetic marks. It's really, really cool. I read this during a readathon, so I did kind of vlog my experience reading this one, and you can see some of my live reactions, which I thought were pretty fun. So I will leave that linked in the description box below as well, but it was just such a fun story. I really loved the magic system. These next 2 I also rated 4.5 stars. We have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of like Achilles' story and the Trojan War, but this is from the perspective of Patroclus. So he is a young prince who is exiled, and he is sent to the court of King Peleus, whose son is Achilles. So it's about these 2 boys forming a bond. They grow up together. There is a romance as well. I listened to the audiobook of this one and thoroughly enjoyed that. I really liked the narration. I've been having good success with the audiobooks I've been listening to this year, which is fantastic. I also read, well, listened to and loved Circe by Madeline Miller. Again, 4.5 stars. This is a retelling of the Odyssey, and at the forefront of this we have Circe. So it's actually her story. In the Odyssey, she is a very minor character and doesn't really have much of a role, but this is all about Circe's life. The narrator for this one was absolutely fantastic. I loved her voice. Her voice was just so calm and so soothing. But this was really a fascinating story, and I really liked getting to know Circe and seeing her family history and things like that, and how she was raised and then being exiled, and how she makes a life for herself. The rest of the books I'm going to be talking about were all 5-star reads. First of all, I have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I finally read it. Yes, I listened to this one on audio, and the narrator is one of my favorites of all time, so I was really pleasantly surprised with that. But this was definitely a hard-hitting book. It was really emotional, really thought-provoking, and intense at times. Could be really intense, but it is an important story as well. So this one is inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. We follow Star, who is driving along with one of her friends. They're pulled over by the police, and her friend is shot and killed by the policeman. Her friend was absolutely innocent, did nothing wrong, but the policeman shot him because he was a black man. It is about the aftermath of that, how it affects Star, her family, the whole community as well. And as Star kind of comes to terms with what has happened, and she's trying to decide whether or not she wants to stay silent or actually do something and seek justice for her friend. As you can tell by the synopsis alone, it's definitely a heart-wrenching story. It had me tearing up multiple times while listening to this one, and I'm so glad that I read it. Really, really enjoyable. I thought this was such a fantastic story, and I cannot wait to read more from Angie Thomas. We also have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Also another book that I've been meaning to read for the longest time and finally got around to doing it. And I really enjoyed this one. We have Kaz Brekker, who is approached by a man and given this proposition to basically pull off the biggest heist of all time, and if he succeeds, like, there's a massive reward in it. So in order to do so, he gathers a team alongside Kaz. This group includes Inej, Jesper, Wylan, Nina, and Matthias, and we do follow each of those 6 characters' perspectives in this one. I also wanted to highlight some of the representation in here. We do see some kind of different racial identities, though it is fantasy but based off different races that we recognize in our world. Kaz also walks with a walking stick, and we do see a bit of a male-male romance blossoming in this one, which was super cute. I really loved the heist element of this one, and honestly cannot wait to dive into Cookie Kingdom, so hoping to get to that one soon. Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae files. I have reviewed this one, so we'll link that down below. Obviously it also gets a 5-star rating from me. I thought this was a really satisfying ending. It did wrap up in a bit of a neat bow, and it wasn't quite as twisty and turny as the other books in the series, but it was still a bumpy ride. definitely take a look at my review to find out more. The last book I'm going to be talking about in this video is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This one I have also done a video review of, so we'll have that linked in the description below. This is a West African inspired fantasy novel. We follow 3 different characters, and in this world there are these different clans of magic. Some of them are elemental magic, some of them are magic of disease and healing, light, death, things like that. So really love the magic system. But the king of Orisha absolutely detests magic and ruled that it be destroyed. In order to do so, everyone who is like a fully fledged magi has to be killed. One of the main characters, Zaylee, her mother was a magi, and she's kind of given one chance to perhaps restore magic in the land. Oh, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed this one. I think I also read this during a readathon, so you can kind of see my live reactions to some of the things in this book as well. Obviously no spoilers, so I'll also leave that in the description too. Those were the books that I read in April, May and June. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so glad you stuck with me to this point. If you're still here, I'm impressed. But thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you very soon in a new one, and until then I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!